Alex Lafkus here. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about some just general principles of fishing streamers in high water. Um, you can look at this a lot of ways. High water can be very good. It can also be overwhelming and be over the top. A couple things I'm going to look for when fishing high water. If I pull up to a river and there's no visibility, all chocolate, not even clear edges, I know I'm in for a tough deal. I like to have some visibility. Um, The other thing that'll scare me is if you start getting into those corners and it's so high that it's flooding up into the trees. When you lose your natural river channel, it can get a little tougher too. So that's kind of like where I'm going. Oh man, this is too high. Now, on the front side and on the back side, when the water's still kind of condensed into its river channel and you have some clear edges, a lot of times after a big rain, you'll start seeing it on the back side. The river will fall out. It'll still be pretty dirty in the middle and clear edges. That can be very good fishing. Now, some of the general principles. Now, this is going to change little rivers to big rivers, but what you can tend to see is I see really good fishing in high water more frequently in small rivers. Small rivers with a lot of fish. They push out. If it's a narrow channel and it gets fast, they all have to leave their houses and kind of get to new spots to find soft water. Um, that makes them more accessible. A lot of the big fish will have a home in a root water, something in a small river, and they never leave it. They are very hard to catch when they're in there. If you get high water events, it'll start spreading those fish out. So you're getting shots at fish you don't necessarily have out all the time. That helps us. Um, but where do these fish go? Now you've really got to start looking for soft water. You know, it, those big deep holes that are fast, that maybe that's where you catch all your fish in standard flows. A lot of times those fish are jockeying out of those high water spots. They're going to go to inside corners. They're going to come upstream or downstream into little pockets, little back eddies up and adjacent to it. They're going to start using the inside shelves. If it's extremely high water, not only, if you think about an inside corner like this, a lot of times the fish are going to be here. Well, if it's real high, you find them more on the backside where it really starts slowing down. After the hard water comes around, you get a little soft stuff and they'll sit on the backside of the inside flat. That's typical in extreme high water situations. Prior to that, though, it's a lot of back eddies, little pockets, softer water. A lot of times when you get into high water situations, instead of looking for the pace that you typically look for when streamer fishing, I look slower. It's like in high water situations, they go to slower water than you would ever expect to see them in. A lot of fish will find those areas, big greasy flats, those back eddies, and big fish will get jammed into little eddies. There's small spots a lot of times, so it takes accurate casting. You'll even see them, if you dry fly fish a bunch, which a lot of people do. You see big fish in tough little back eddies in high water. That's just where they go. They're seeking some soft spots with some food. So look for, some visibility in the water. A lot of times the little rivers, when they're really pushing water, can fish really good. I fish a lot of bright for a few reasons. I want to see it. I want the fish to see it. It also gives you a little bit better idea. It helps me figure out where snags are quicker because I'm tracking my fly a little bit better. Sometimes a floating line is going to be a better bet because you can skip it way up underneath bushes and shrubbery. You want to get into the jungle. You kind of approach a lot of it like you're bass fishing. If you've got wood in the river, you're gunning it way up in the junk all the time. Inside corners, in flat side flats, it's now the slowest water you're looking for. Um, the other thing I have a tendency to do is, like, when you talk about your presentations, those little back eddies and stuff, you want to try to keep your fly in those slow spots as long as you can in high water. A lot of times the fish don't want to come busting out into that fast water. They want it hanging in that slow water where they can eat it, or just on the edge of the seam. Once you make it through that seam, if that fish isn't tracking on it still, the chance of you pulling something off once you get out goes down, down, down. Um, that's kind of what you want to look for high water. And if you're in high and fast water, fish your fly slow. Like, the current's doing a lot of the action, so you can just kind of hold it and keep it around there, and those fish will jump on it. A lot of times they have a less time to decide. High water becomes, it's a real issue if the water temp is below 48 degrees. There's too much food in there. Fish don't want to push shallow. So it can be really difficult. High water, sub 48 degrees. Now, as you start getting up into the 50s and stuff, those fish got to feed, metabolism's there. So you can catch it in the rising water and in the high water. Now, what you tend to see is on the rising water. I've been talking about kind of the back side of the rising water so far. When you see the water come up, obviously there's a very good window before the water gets high, and then that water will get high and dirty. Typically, I can have decent fishing for maybe 24 hours. A lot of times there's a big window where everything feeds. That first day of rising water, the next day of high dirty water tends to be a tough bite. But man, sometimes some of the biggest fish are still out. Those are days guys catch huge fish, and it tends to be a grind. You might see one or two fish. You just run the giant, big old chicken. You know, if it's clay, dirty, that kind of sediment filled junk water and it's dirty, I'd run black. Black shows up really good. Black and chartreuse, black, whatever it is. If you're more tannic and stuff, I like to do bright colors. We have a lot of swamp water in Michigan, so it comes out tannic. It's a lot of chartreuse, yellow, white, and that kind of color. So hopefully some of those things will help you when you get pushed into high water spots. So just keep that in mind. If you're on the second day of high water, sometimes you got to grind it, but you can catch the biggest fish of the year, especially in warmer water. You get, in Michigan or in the, we're mid-May, we might get some of these huge events where we have 54, 55-degree water and really high water. That's sometimes when the biggest fish of the year are caught. It can be a real grind and it can kick your ass, but, grind through those days. If you're a hardcore streamer fishing, you might see the one. I don't like guiding those as much because a lot of times it's one or two shots all day, if that. Obviously, in those situations too, full moon conditions or something along those lines are going to help your situation. You just need more fish out wanting to feed. Hope that helps. That's some of the high water stuff. Very good time to catch a lot of fish. It's a great time to catch big fish. It's just you do want to identify the water and spend your time fishing that amount of water or that type of water, and you'll catch more fish. Hope that helps. Thanks.